التمكين والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. فاللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم، وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم، وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم، واجعلنا مما يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. آمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أزبرا welcome back. Does anyone have a whiteboard marker? No? Whiteboard marker? No one has a whiteboard marker? They have a whiteboard marker? A whiteboard marker? Okay, sure, no problem. Right, so we begin or continue, and what we've been discussing for a few weeks, that I believe we only have 3 lessons left. That's what said to me about happened, right? So 3 Sundays, I think that is people holiday. So what we do is that we are busy with the mansubat. And if you look at, I mean, Nahu for this year, just to reorientate us, when we first started studying Nahu in the first year, we started by Jend, and then we moved from Jend to something that I call macro Nahu. Then we from micro Nahu to macro Nahu. Micro Nahu was the idea of zooming into the word and looking at almost like the anatomy of the Arabic word. And we noticed 4 things about that. And we took that and we saw our words interact with one another to create meaning. And in order to do that, we studied like some key concepts. But when we studied those concepts, we didn't study them from the perspective of them being Nahu concepts. We studied them from the perspective of what are the different structures that create meaning in the Arabic language. So we understood that when you have 2 words put together and both of them are rough, then they create an is sentence or an are sentence. We noticed that when you put 2 words next to each other in the same gender, indicative, number, and definiteness, they create an adjectival clause. We noticed that when you put 1 word in like and another word in halatul jar afterwards, it creates a possessive clause. So we noticed that when you put a half jar next to a word and a propositional meaning. So when we studied Nahu last year, we weren't so focused on the hal, right, in order to convey to us meaning. We were more focused on how words look and how compounds look. And when they look like that, then we translate them in a certain way. When you have light and jar, the something of something. When you have gin, you make an adjective. So that's how we were studying now. So in this year, we moved and we took a different approach. Nahu proper, if you want. So we started to look at the hala. We started to look at the hal and what are the different conditions that hal can be found in, right? And how do we interpret that hal for meaning? So we looked at raf' and we saw the different conditions that raf' can be found in. And when we find the raf' in one of these ways, how do we interpret that raf' for a meaning that is sound? And then we moved to nasb, and that's where we are now. And we looked at the different conditions that the hal of nasb can be found in. And how do we interpret that nasb in order to give us a meaning? So that's how we're studying Nahu now. And so we looked at maf'ulun bihi, and then we looked at maf'ul li'ajlihi, right? And then we looked at maf'ul mutlaq. And now we're looking at maf'ul fi, right? Hal. We're looking at hal. So we had some exercises there on hal. And let us go through them. If someone can read the Arabic. And then, because I don't have the notes. If someone can read the Arabic, we'll go through the English. And then, or let us recap the notes of hal. And then we'll move from there. So one of the easiest ways to detect what which of the mansubat you are dealing with in a particular verse or in a sentence is that you look at what question that answers. Sometimes it might answer the question why. Then you understand it to be maf'ul li'ajlihi. It might answer the question how or to what degree, or it might emphasize. Then you may say that it is maf'ul mutlaq. So over here also you might ask the question in what manner. And when something appears in halatun nasb, and it can be understood as answering the question in what manner or how something was done, then you have found an instance of hal. So let's look at those examples. We'll read. The ayat. Bismillah, read this half of the ونحشرهم يوم القيامة على وجوههم عميا وبكما وصما. Right? So the focus words over there is عميا وبكما وصما. So how did you translate this verse? Mels? No, that's what وتحبون المال وتحبون المال حبا جما. We're reading ونحشرهم يوم القيامة. And we will gather them on the day of resurrection on their faces على وجوههم عميا وبكما وصما. This is blind and dumb and deaf. Blind and dumb and deaf. So where's the maf'ul? Where's the hal over there? عميا and bukman and no. So you can also understand. They call it maf'ul fi. There's it's a type of second maf'ulun bihi. Like when you have جعلنا الجبال عمادا. We made the mountains pillars. So when you say نحشرهم على وجوههم, so على وجوههم will be the maf'ulun bihi, right? And then we will gather them. You can understand whom, them also to be the maf'ulun bihi. Then you speak about how we will gather them. It's the same like جعلنا الجبال عمادا. Mountains, pigs or pillars. You understand that idea? مفعول فيه. طيب, next example. Yes. فيه, in it. Same thing. In you can say in the verb or in the action. Yes, it's as if there's an action and you want to see the nature of that action. So it's all like you want to know what's happening inside, something like that. Next example. وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. Right? How do you translate it? How are the ladies? When I was small, صغيرا. So over here, where's the hal? صغيرا. So what is it doing? What's the hal doing over here? It's describing the condition of the maf'ulun bihi. Rabbaya, the two of them made tarbiyah of me. What was my condition when they were making tarbiyah of me? Saghiran. I was. You understand that? Saghiran means small, or as a child, or as a minor. Yes. So even if you say as a minor, that as a minor is his condition. Exactly. So where's the hal? Where's the state? The nas over there is telling you the state of the maf'ulun bihi. Who's the maf'ulun bihi? Me. Right? So that you nurtured me whilst I was in what hal, in what state? In a state of being small. Make sense? Fine. Next example. This is وَإِذْ قَالَتِ امْرَأَةُ عِمْرَانَ رَبِّي إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لَكَ مَا فِي بَطْنِي مُحَرَّرًا. How did you translate that? One of the things. Dedicated, so accept from me. How did somebody else translate it with muharrara? Muharrara as an offering. What else? Muharrara in service. Muharrara comes from the word hur, means to be free. This is so. Inni nadartu laka ma fi batni. I vow to you that which is in my belly. Muharraran, freely. Meaning what? Muharraran can also mean open-endedly, without any condition. So how do I vow this baby to you? Do I vow this baby to you halfway? Do I vow this baby to you with a condition that you must give me something back? Do I vow this baby to you such that I keep a portion of the child? No, muharraran. I vow this baby to you unrestrictedly, freely, unconditionally, completely, solely. How? Make sense? So sometimes if you know that you're working with hal, it might help you to look into the root word. You can look into that word harrara, yuharriru, and then from there, sometimes the dictionary won't give you the word muharram. But you know that muharram is the maf'ul, or the maf'ul, the ismul maf'ul of the second verb. No, muharram, yes. Harrara yuharriru, muharram, or the ismul maf'ul of the first verb even, because it's a muda'af verb. So you look for the verb on that verb, and then you interpret the meaning according to that. Make sense? طيب. I hope that is clear. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying that sometimes you will not find the ism that you are looking at in the dictionary entry. So you have to know that this ism seems like a maf'ulun bihi. Why? Because of that muharrar, that on the verb. So all I have to do is look for that that word as a verb, and then make up my own meaning for it as a noun. Make sense? For example, if I know that there's a word alima ya'lamu, means to know, then I find the word mu'allam. Then I look in the dictionary and I don't find the word mu'allam. How do I create a meaning for that? I go to the second verb and I see that allama yu'allimu means to make somebody know, to teach. So then I know mu'allam is the ismul maf'ul. So then I know that the mu'allam is the one who was taught. Even though I'm not going to find that meaning in the dictionary, but I can interpret that meaning through using the general verb and understanding how the scales work. Make sense? طيب. So that's what I'm saying over here about muharram. You all found one meaning, but there were many other possibilities. How did I come to my meaning? I came to my meaning through not looking for the single word, but understanding it as a verb and then creating my own meaning as a noun. So you can do the same thing. Make sense? طيب. Next one. وتركوك قائما. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما. We'll translate first from online. 6 of you are here. Maryam, Shafiq, Tasneem, anyone? The guy's part of the class, you're sleeping. I don't know. Well, the class is background music or what? طيب, one of the ones? And when they saw a transaction or a sport, what else did you get for lahwan? Or amusement? They left you standing. So where's the maf'ul, where's the hal? قائما, standing. Can you see that they males left ka, you? Now the ka is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the word qa'iman is telling us about the condition of the maf'ul bihi. What was the condition of the one you left when you left him? You left him standing. Now, you see that? The state. Yes, you can say that. The state. Next one. Yes, leave you standing, left you standing. You just translated it as, you translated it basically as present continuum, whereas we translated it as perfect past. You understand? Perfect past, we said left. You said present continuum, leave. But your meaning is sound. It's just the tense. Next example. وخرج منها خائفا يترقب. One of the people. So we live from it fearing and vigilant. يترقب. يترقب means to lie in wait for something. So is the handing خائفا? No? Yes, fearful and watchful. So over here, whose hal is being explained? The hal of the fa'il. خرج منها خائفا. Next one. وينقلب إلى أهله مسرورا. As you translated, and he will return to his people happy. So over there, the maf'ul, the hal is masruran. It's telling us how. Next one. وإذا ذكرت ربك في القرآن وحده ولوا على أدبارهم نفورا. There's two things that is working there. Let's hear the translation first. Is oneness, not quite. Alone. Alone. A verse. Right. So you can understand the word nufuran. Nufuran. Right? Is that also hal? A verse? Right? Hal over there. And then you have, what's the other hal? Wahdahu. So How is Allah mentioned? Is Allah mentioned with partners? No. He's mentioned alone. So when you mention your Lord, alone. And in the other one, they turn away. How do they turn away? Nufuran, a verse. You can also understand nufuran because nafara yanfuru means to flee from something. Right? So they said, wallo, they turn away. You can understand it as maf'ul li ajlihi. Why do they turn away? They turn away in order to flee, in order to escape. Because when you mention Allah alone, that reality is so stark that in order to deal with the fact that they're denying it, they flee from it. So it tells you about why they turn away. Why do they turn away? To flee from the truth. So you can understand it this way, you can understand it. Wahdahu means him alone. Yes. Yes. Both of them we said hal, nufuran and wahdahu. Both of them are explaining, they're answering the question, how? Hmm. Yes, yes. That's a very good observation. That what? That for most of the examples, you have a word that is nakira, right? You have a word that is indefinite, and so it will have a tanween. And but sometimes the maf'ul, I mean, the hal can come as a mudaf ilayh. Like over here, we have a case of mudaf ilayh, wahdahu, him alone. So what is important? What is important is that we see nas. That we see nas. It's a good question. Next one. Hmm. Didn't do the additional examples. Right, let's go to the new lesson. What comes after this? ضرف زمان and ضرف مكان. Can I borrow somebody's notes? Don't have ضرف زمان and ضرف مكان. Don't have those notes. They have it. Look, the males stay more absent than the females. You have to ask yourself the question, where didn't you get it? No, it will be homework, of course. No, it's gonna be homework. Fine. So, okay, you don't need notes, I will explain it to you. So we're moving now to ظرف زمان and ظرف مكان. ظرف زمان and ظرف مكان. So one of the ways that you can understand ظرف زمان and ظرف مكان, though it does not always work. So though this understanding doesn't always work, as an introduction to the idea of ظرف زمان and ظرف مكان, is that we've mentioned this before, that just as we understood the maf'ul mutlaq as a type of adverb, you remember that? We understood it as an adverb of manner. And we can now see that the hal almost shares in that. In that, just as a noun has an adjective in order to describe it, in the English language, a verb would have an adverb to describe. So over here, we have actions being done. Then, thus far, we have described the action in different ways. We started off by describing the emphasis of the action, or the intensity, or the degree, right? Or the, what do you call that? The amount, the volume in which an action is done. And we dealt with that through مفعول مطلق مبين للنوع للعدد ومؤكدة للفعل, right? Explaining the number, or explaining the type, or emphasizing the verb. Then we moved on to مفعول لأجله, which kind of didn't fit into the whole adverb thing, right? Then we moved to حال, which gave us an idea of adverb of manner, right? So now we move to ظرف, and ظرف gives us the idea of adverb of time and adverb of place. Right? Adverb of time and adverb of place. However, ظرف is different from ظرف is different from what came before, in that ظرف can oftentimes be used with an ism without the appearance of a fi'l, even though we're explaining it here with a fi'l. For example, one of ظرف is above and below, فوق and تحت. That would be ظرف, a container, an adverb of time, of place. We might have a sentence and we say, الرجل فوق المسجد. The man is above the masjid. So there's no verb there. So ظرف can work. So the notes reads ظرف زمان and ظرف مكان. All right? So a ظرف in the Arabic language, a ظرف is a word that indicates the time or place of an action. Like I said to you, you will find it's not restricted to actions. It is generally in the house, but will be in jar if it is preceded by a harf jar. Right? Oftentimes, it is qualified by a mudaf ilayh. Qualified by mudaf. I will explain to you what that means. An indicating place called Ẓarf, Makān. When indicating time, it is called Zarf, Zamān. It answers the question where, when, or for how long the action was done. So, one of the most common ways that the Zarf will appear is that the Zarf will appear as a light word in Halatun Nas. Very common. A light word in Halatun Nas. Will commonly appear as a light word in Halatun Nas. And that is why the word after it, what do they mean? Oftentimes it is qualified by mudaf. Means that the word after it will be in Halatun Nas. Why? Because it is light. So one of the most common ways that the Zarf appears is as a mudaf ilayh. But it is a mudaf ilayh that is in Halatun Nas. And why is it in Halatun Nas? Because it is a Zarf. It is an adverb that indicates time or place. Let me give you a few simple examples thereof. For example, you have the word fawqa and you have the word tahta. No? So you will say فوق المسجد تحت المسجد. Right? You might have the word, so that's place. Let's look at time. For example, قبل المغرب بعد المغرب. You see that? You might have another one. For example, pool. Pool means طويل. So now they say here, for how long was the action done? So I say, عبد الله. He worshipped Allah. How long did he worship Allah? طول حياته. How do you translate that? His entire life. For how long? The duration of his life. You see that? I'll give you another example. Here's an example of Zarf. It kind of doesn't appear like that. You say what? ساعة. An hour. Or you might say ساعة إذن. At that moment. So you say what? خرج ساعة إذن. إذن means then. ساعة إذن means at that moment. You see that?